Hey, Casey. Oh, perfect. Finally getting it working.
Hi.
Hi, I'm so sorry about that. There was some confusion on everything.
Oh no, that's okay. I'm in the right spot though?
I think so. If you're in the right spot, I'm in the right spot.
Okay.
Oh, perfect. Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna start adding people. It looked like it was a little messed up on the joining thing. Okay. This is what happens when you get in early and you practice, and then it just does not go according to plan. All right.
Zoom is always just so tricky for some reason.
I know. Let's see. Where are you in your flight journey?
So I'm actually working on my instructor, my CFI initial.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to see how other CFIs are teaching their lessons and just see how you're formatting things and the way you talk and all of that. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I did last time when I was on one of these.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
so my presentation will be very bare bones, but just kind of like telling people where they can find the resources and stuff. So,
Okay, cool.
okay. And I'm just trying to see if there's anybody else. She says she's joining. All right. So can everybody hear me and everything?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So let me figure this out because I'm learning just as much as you guys are. I've never hosted one of these before. Oops. All right. So let's start recording. Oh, it's already recording. Okay, cool. All right. Read the chats on there. Okay. And then I will screen share. Okay, so okay, start broadcast. So my presentation is going to be on um, ground or airspace. So let me see if I can get this to work. Apologies about that. And it worked when I did this whole stop sharing when I did the whole testing.
Yeah, of
And now
course
it's
it did.
when I work and I'm like, oh,
Yeah, of course, right now when you need it.
okay. Let's see. Tools got it. Yeah, I was worried. I was worried no one's gonna show up, and I was like, oh no, that's so interesting. All right, let me see if I can pull this up somehow. What do you see on your screen when you're looking at it?
I'm seeing a gray Zoom screen that says you are sharing screen, and I can see myself actually.
That's what I was afraid of. Okay. Um, why this isn't working? I don't know.
What are you
Oh,
trying to do?
I'm trying to pull up a PowerPoint.
Oh, it won't let you even like exit your screen?
Mm, it's when I go in to hit share, and it was working when I was testing it. I hit screen for screen
Hmm.
share. Let me try iCloud Drive. Oh, I don't know. This is where it's at. That's annoying. I just had it up and everything. Google Drive. All right, we're not doing that. You know what? I can just split screen it. I might not have a screen to share, but I can split screen this and use my PowerPoint on the other side, and we can go through everything.
Okay.
Sorry about all this, guys. So, all right, national airspace. Couple things about it. So as you guys know, there's A, B, C, D, E, and G airspaces. So we're just gonna go part by part. I had a beautiful little chart, but it's not pulling up, and I'm not gonna waste everybody's time. So I just want to talk about a couple of equipment that are needed in each airspace and where you can find this information. So first is ADSB out, which is automatic dependent surveillance broadcasting. And if you want more information about what that is and where you can find those resources, you can look it up in AIM 454-5-7. The next piece of equipment we're going to talk about is a transponder. And oops, let me try something and see if it'll share like this. Share screen. Let's just see if this will work. Start broadcast. All right. Can you see the?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So then I'm just gonna see if I can pull it. You can still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Then we're gonna do it like that. All right.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry about that. So then we have the transponder. If you want more information about that, you can look up in the appendix F under part 43. And then there's mode C transponder, reporting altitude information within 100 feet increments. And there's more information about that in when that's required under AIM 91.215. And then DME, which is distance measuring equipment. And that can be found under 91.205, and that is required above flight level 240. Okay, we're gonna have to touch it. So we're gonna fill out this entire chart, but this is just a basic, what's it gonna look like at the end. So a little chart of the airspaces. We have Class A airspace, which is 18,000 feet up to flight level 600. A is for altitude, so very high. You are going to need to be on a IFR flight plan in order to fly up there. So there is no visual VFR flying in Class A. You're going to need ADSB out, Mode C transponder, and two-way radio communications. There are no weather minimums because it is an IFR. And Class A airspace goes from, like I said, 18,000 to flight level 600, and then it's off 12 nautical miles off the coast over the continental 49 United States. So when you go over Hawaii, it may be slightly different airspace requirements for Class A. And this is a Class A exists for the United States. Different countries may have different things that they use and how they do everything. All right, Class B, we like to say, is the upside down wedding cake. So this is a symbolic gesture of what Class B is. And then you can see on a chart what it actually looks like. So the big letters or big numbers is, you're gonna see it goes up to 10,000 feet. And the number at the bottom is the bottom shelf, and the number on the top is the top shelf. Now on this one, you can see it goes up to 12,000. That's most likely the altitude at where it's at. This is in Colorado, so it's at such a high altitude that it actually continues up. So about 10,000 feet above airport elevation. So you have it from the surface all the way up to 12,000 feet, according to this. Different shelves. So you can actually fly underneath. There's also a Mode C veil if you're looking at it, and that's the magenta ring around it. And it should say Mode C, that's within 30 nautical miles. Some interesting things about Class B. You have to have permission. You have to hear cleared to enter Class Bravo. You can fly in it as a student if you have an endorsement. However, I'd have to look it up, but there is a list in the FAR AIM that has all the airports, the Class B airports, that do not allow student pilots to fly in. So just because you're endorsed doesn't necessarily mean you can fly in any Class B airspace. You have to be endorsed for that specific airspace, and then a lot of them don't even allow for it. And as you can see underneath, they're Class D airspaces and such. So making sure you know where those shelves are so you don't break into the Class B. So it's typically from the surface on the inner ring. And then obviously as it goes out and tiers out, there's different shelves where it starts up to 10,000 feet MSL. You must have two-way radio clearance. You must have a mode C transponder and ADS-B out. As I spoke, you can be a private pilot is the basic minimum requirement, or a student pilot with an endorsement. And then the weather minimums in the Class B airspace is 3 statute miles and clear of clouds. All right, Class C is a solid magenta line. It looks like a 2-tiered wedding cake. And it starts at the surface all the way up to typically 4,000 feet, give or take. And then you are going to have an outer ring that'll start a couple thousand feet up, all the way up to that top tier of typically 4,000 feet MSL, give or take, depending on the altitude at which the airport is located. So a couple things to know about Class C. You need two-way radio communications. Again, you should have mode C transponder and ADS-B out. There are no pilot requirements per se in order to do that, so you don't necessarily need to be a student pilot endorsed to fly in Class C or anything like that. And then the weather minimums in Class C is 3 statute miles, and you have to stay 500 feet below the clouds, 1,000 feet above, or 2,000 feet horizontally as you maneuver through the Class C airspace with the cloud clearances. All right, Class D, Class Delta. So that is a segmented blue line, and they typically go up to about 2,000, 2,500 feet, give or take, and it is just 4 nautical miles. So some fun things about the Class D airspace, surface up to 2,500 feet AGL. You should have two-way radio communication in order to enter in. You definitely need, for Class D, it's towered airport, so you need clearance in order to land on the runway. Now, let's say for whatever reason, you don't have two-way radio communications, then you need to be looking out for those light guns, because the tower will start signaling to you with the light guns and giving you directions from there. In case you have a radio failure, or for whatever reason there's a plane without a radio. Again, there's no pilot requirements. And then the cloud clearances in Class D airspace for VFR is 3 statute miles, 500 feet below, 1,000 feet above, and 2,000 feet horizontally. So Class E airspace is very unique. And so you've got 2 different depictions of Class E, and then on the side, you actually have multiple different depictions. But the first one on the far right is a Class E airport, and it starts at about 700 feet is where the Class E starts. Now, if it has a magenta line, like on the second picture to the right, that means it starts at the surface. And then, as you can see from the other indications, you have where there may be that magenta or that blue shading would be Class E airspace floor is at 1,200 feet or greater above the surface. So yeah, just a couple of things to recognize with those. You can also have Class E, the magenta lines coming off a Class Delta, and that's just giving a Class Delta. Typically those are for approaches and just allowing for a little bit more space and control right there, like on the next page. So extension for airport surface areas. And as you can see, it typically will then help out with that. Also, with a Class Delta, when the airport closes, the tower closes down, it then becomes a variety of Class D and Class E and Class G airspace. So that's something else to keep in mind and what the rules and regulations are for that. So Class E airspace can start at the surface. It can start at 700 feet AGL, 1,200 feet AGL, and then 14,500 feet MSL. Typically, that's only in very high mountainous areas. You won't normally see that around. It starts there and extends all the way up to but the 17,999. It never goes up to 18,000 feet because that's where the Class A airspace starts. And actually, once you get past flight level 600, you then get back into Class E airspace. So ADS-B out is required above 10,000 feet in MSL in Class E airspace. There are no pilot requirements per se. And then, so if you're above 10,000 feet, your cloud clearances are supposed to be for VFR, 5 statute miles, 1,000 feet above, 1,000 feet below, and then 1 statute mile horizontally. Now, if you're below 10,000 feet in Class E airspace, again, it's going to be that 3 statute miles, 500 feet below, 1,000 feet above, and 2,000 feet horizontally. And this is the fun one, Class G airspace. So on the far right, you can see there's a red circle that's just indicating it's a Class G airspace, whereas the other airspaces that have those magenta circles are Class E. So you see one Class G airspace down there, and this is a depiction of what the Class G airspace would look like. So everything around it is Class G in the green, and then on the left picture, and then the Class E would be at the surface all the way up. So that's a Class E airport with Class G around it. Just a depiction of what that would look like. So Class G airspace, it's just basically underneath Class E. So it's normally from the surface to either 700 feet AGL, 1,200 feet AGL, or at the highest possible point, 14,500 feet MSL. Again, you need ADS-B out above 10,000 feet MSL. And then for the daytime, if you are at 12,000 feet AGL or less, you just need 1 statute mile and clear of clouds. Now, if you're above 12,000 feet AGL, sorry, 1,200, not 12,000, 1,200 feet AGL, you need the, again, for VFR day, 3 statute miles, 1,000 feet above, 500 feet below, and 2,000 feet horizontally. And then this nice depiction of this chart just to show everything. So the time, the cloud clearances do differ day and night for VFR for Class G airspace. So that's something to keep in mind. So at night, if you're above, I believe it's the 1,200 feet, you then go up to 3 statute miles, same as during the day, 1,000 feet above, 5,000 feet, or 500 feet below, and 2,000 feet horizontally. All right, and then some special use airspaces. We have MOAs. You can find that under AIM 3-4-5, controlled firing areas, and that's found under AIM 3-4-7, prohibited areas 3-4-2, restricted areas 3-4-3, and alert areas you can find in the AIM under 3-4-6. Warning areas, I won't keep reading this, you guys can read that. Warning areas, national security areas, temporary flight restrictions, and then terminal radar service areas. So I'm sure we're all very familiar with the MOAs. So an example of what they look like are right on the screen, and it'll show you the MOA, and it'll say the name of the MOA. And then actually, if you pull up the charts on the side will actually list all the different MOAs and the times the names and the times they're active. And I believe most of the time it'll show controlling agencies as well. There is no restrictions typically for VFR flights through these areas. However, you should use extreme caution because they can be maneuvering, doing crazy things in there. Sometimes they will ask people to avoid those certain areas. So just keep an eye out on that. Sometimes flight following will kind of sector you around them as well. All right, controlled firing areas. So it's my understanding that it's not published anywhere. I've heard that there's a controlled firing area published somewhere, but for the most part, it's not a control. You don't find it on the charts. And they are very hazardous for non-participating aircraft. So being aware of those and kind of knowing what the deal is with that. I think most of the time they're off the coast typically. Prohibited areas. So these are areas you are just like not allowed to go in at all. So They're established for security reasons, whether it's for, like they said, national welfare. They put them over some president's houses. I think Area 51 has it. So these are just absolutely cannot fly. Don't even think about it. You're in huge trouble if you do. But that's what they would look like on a chart. Restricted areas, so you're not supposed to fly through them. You can only fly through them if you have permission from the controlling agency, and you would have to speak with the controlling agency in order to be allowed to fly through those areas. And they have multiple hazards through them as well. Alert areas, and this is just to let people know that, oops, sorry, I'm letting somebody else in. This is just to let people know that the airspace has pilot training area. So being aware of that and knowing that you need to be on your P's and Q's if a jet flies right by you or something. So, but that's what an alert area would look like. The warning areas off the coast. So within 3 nautical miles, or published 3 nautical miles outward from the coast, they can be hazardous. They do different weaponry and stuff out there, and they're shown on the charts like so in the picture. I believe there are typically ways you can call up and find out if they're active or not, and I don't know if they're on the side of the chart as well off the top of my head, but I do believe you can call up if you're doing flight following or something and ask if those areas are active. And then they have national security areas. I personally haven't seen one of these yet in person while flying around, but it's just basically letting you know you're to avoid flying in those areas. So, and it can become prohibited if active or if needed to be. So to keep something keep in mind. And then the temporary flight restrictions, I'm sure we've all seen this with like presidents moving around and different sporting events and stuff, and they'll typically be in the NOTAMs. So that's something to really check for. And it's just basically saying, hey, this area is protected, don't come in it. And if you do, it's going to be a lot of problems. All right, and then terminal radar service areas. And we always said that these were Class D airspaces acting as Class C, and they basically allow for radar separation for participating VFR aircraft, if you'd like. So they are in the gray, kind of like a Class C, but they're gray looking. So that's just something if you see it on the chart to recognize. All right, let's stop sharing that, bring it over. Did anybody have any questions about anything that we went over? I know it was kind of fast. Okay, no. All right.
Sorry, I had a question about, could you go back to one of your earlier slides? It had a bunch of references on it. I believe it was the special use airspace.
Yeah, sure. Let me look that up real quick. Let me go back and restart it and see. Okay, special use airspace. Okay.
That's all in the same AIM chapter, right?
Yes, they're all in chapter 3.
Okay.
Yep, and they're in anywhere from AIM 3.4 to 3.5.
Okay.
But they're all in the back of the book if you wanted to read specifics on any of that.
Okay. My other question was about class Golf airspace abutting class Echo. At one point in my training, I definitely remember one of my instructors telling me that there is that blue fading line that denotes class Echo starting at 1,200. Just all around the contiguous US. Is that true? Because I have not been able to see it on ForeFlight, and no paper charts go that far off the coast. So is it, or is every airspace outside of that, you know, tube of Echo above an airport Golf everywhere?
So it would mostly be, so I know Golf, yeah, they say it's everywhere, but so you're asking, is there like a blue, like that blue line that shows that it starts at 1,200 feet around the entire United States?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, the only place I've ever really seen the blue has been like out west or in Alaska. I
I was gonna
haven't,
say because I've never seen the blue. Okay.
I've never seen it around like the coast of the United States. Now I think what he may be talking about is there's like a checkered pattern, and that was
Mm.
depicted at the bottom. And let me see if I can share my screen again. Screen, because I think it was on there and it was talking about that. Um, I don't know if ForeFlight always does the best job of representing sometimes different airspaces, especially outside of the United States or right on the edge. So let's see. This would be, unless he's talking about this specific little part right here, but even that is not quite, yeah.
Mm.
Airspace greater than 700. Yeah, that's the only thing I could think of, and I have seen something like that around the border of the United States, but not to the extent of what it sounds like they were saying.
Okay.
So yeah, but you can find it, like I said, out west or in the up in Alaska area. So
Gotcha. Thank you.
yeah, of course. And if I can find the answer or find out I'm wrong, like I will gladly own that and be like, I am so
No, yeah. I haven't been able to verify it, but I've, recalled it from such a long time ago. I don't know if like I'm remembering incorrectly or what, because I've never been able to verify that, but for some reason it's stuck in my head. It's primacy.
yeah, I don't, yeah. Yeah, it's funny what you remember, but yeah, I've never heard anything about that or seen it, so I'm not
Okay.
super familiar with that one. But if you don't
Okay.
fly like off the coast, because I think most people, when you fly near the coast, you're supposed to stay within gliding distance of the coast, or else you have to have the rafts and all the extra survival gear and stuff on with you,
Right, right.
and then possibly an international flight plan depending on where you're flying.
Okay, gotcha.
So yeah. Did anybody else have any questions? Or, um, any questions about flight training in general?
I do have some of those too, if nobody
Go
else
for it.
has
Yeah,
any.
go for it.
Okay. I am so interested in your CFI, and I guess um, this might not be relevant if the other women in here are students. I don't know where you guys are at in your training, but anyways, when you were training, when you were I don't know, practicing for your training for your CFI initial, um, how did you begin to set up your lessons? How long did it take you to build your lesson plans?
You know, that's a great question. So, I would basically go through what was required. And then another thing I would do is I would find a bunch of different lesson plans and I would kind of like make my own little Frankenstein lesson plans.
Okay.
I'm a big part of like, a lot of people are like, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was actually doing my check ride, they didn't ask to see my lesson plans. Um,
Really?
yeah, I mean, they like were like, oh, you have them? I'm like, yeah. And like, I thought I was gonna have to use them and present them, but it's really like a reference aspect. And you really need to just be able to teach it. And then like, okay, like I'm getting a little lost. Okay, refer to this. And that's kind
Hmm.
of how I did it. The
Okay.
other thing I did was I incorporated like visuals or when I would do lesson plans for like maneuvers, I'd have a
Hmm.
toy plane.
Okay.
I would get a toy plane and my DPE or my student or whatever would get a toy plane and we would fly the toy plane through the maneuver together and we would
Oh,
talk
I
about it
love that.
because you want people to be tactile. Some people are very tactile, so they,
Yeah.
multiple different ways to connect to somebody because some people don't do so well just hearing it.
Hmm.
But if they actually see how the plane's going to look in that maneuver and the nose is pitched and this is what's happening to the aileron and being able to see
Yes.
part by part, I think that helps a lot. I know that was a big one with teaching maneuvers and briefing them on the ground.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. Thank you. That helps a lot.
Yeah,
That's
and
a great
then I
idea.
another thing I did was I sat in on everybody's grounds, all the instructors, kind of like what you're doing. and just
Yeah.
how everybody taught. PowerPoints are a big one. I've learned from PowerPoints. I've done PowerPoints.
Okay.
Um, I really like to sit down and I like to find the information in the book and show people, because you may not know everything, but people need to know where they can find the information.
Hmm.
So that's why I included like the AIM chapters and stuff. So if somebody's like, oh, I don't know, let's fact check this. Okay, let's go to the AIM. Where in here in this book that I actually have right next to me, am I going
Yeah.
to find this information?
I have mine right next to me too.
Yeah, it's exactly how you could do it. And what I even did was I made myself a cheat sheet, and I don't think the new 2000 or 2025 one has it, but I wrote little excerpts next to it so that it was
Mm.
like one word, so it was easy to find. And then like aviates, and I wrote all the different parts where you could find aviates all throughout as a cheat
Oh
sheet.
my gosh. That's genius.
Arrow, just little cheat sheet ways to kind of find things to kind of make it 6 hits. So I just look at it and I'm like,
Mm.
oh, this is where it is. It's my little cheat word, stuff like that.
Yeah. That's genius.
Yeah, because that was a lot. So they're like, oh, well, I can look it up, and I'd open that first page and I'd already written out it, and it has all the little codes right by it, and I don't even have to think where, because these tabs they get so lost.
Yeah.
So you can get very lost in the information sitting there, and then nothing like pressure, like looking through your book and just, okay, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? And that pressure build.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's so good.
yeah, I really
Um,
liked that. You know, I know a lot of instructors will do videos and they'll do like their own grounds. Not a lot of people like to teach grounds anymore. So they'll do like videos of them teaching it and then have their students watch that and then come in to
hmm.
class. Um, I'm not super big on that just because I like to be able to interact, like how me and you are right now. It feeds
Yeah.
off it better. I kind of know where your mindset is, you know where my mindset is. Um, let's see, how important is it to have a syllabus during training? I'm a part 69. Oh, that's huge. If you're a part 61 and they don't have a syllabus, you should always know what your next lesson is going to be about. You should always know what your next flight is going to be about, your next ground, because you should go in. You don't have one at all. That's insane. I don't know. Are you working with a private school or a private instructor? Because if I were you, I would go online, I would find a syllabus, and I would say, this is how we're following it. I need to know, because that's kind of unfair to you to not know what your ground's going to be, to not know what your flights are going to be like and what's expected. And then how do you know when you've completed something and then can then move on from it? So, do you have a list of maneuvers or anything that say, hey, these are all the maneuvers required for PPL or commercial, whatever? And then also knowing what your instructor presenting, what the limitations are, what the, like, you have to be within like 45 degrees or 60 degrees into a steep turn, or 50, and what the limitations and everything are. And then saying, okay, you've completed that, you've successfully done this, we can now move forward in this. So bought the book, so I should. All right, yeah. I would talk to whoever's instructing you, say, hey, I'd like to get on a syllabus. I'd like to know what my next lesson is. Because ideally, you want to, before you even go in for that ground and they teach you, you should have read that chapter or whatever their subject they're going to teach you, and you should know it pretty well. You ever played the rocket? Yes, we played the rocket game a lot, learning different airspaces. Nuts. You sit there and you're like, all right, I'm here. Where am I now? Where am I now? Where am I now? Especially fun when you're doing like a classy airspace under a class B or class D or something under a class B, and then you're shooting from class D to class E to class B, and so on and so forth. So that's the fun little game we used to play a lot, and that during PPL, and that helped a lot. Trying to think what else was really helpful with airspace. Just going out and like, I don't know, I used to play this game, it's a little irrelevant, but I'd go out and I'd stand outside and I'd be like, I wonder how high those clouds are right now. And kind of getting an idea of what the clouds look like from the ground. versus how high they're actually going to be. And then everybody has flight. You can check what the clouds are reporting at and thinking, okay, so what are my minimums? Like, can I go fly? Does this work? Does this not work? And kind of getting that visual sight picture of what clouds and everything are going to look like and what your limitations may be. So that's another thing that I like to do. Because sometimes they don't look that high and they're much higher than they appear. So, but trying to think what else. Does anybody else have any other questions? And it can be about anything. I don't care.
Where do you teach out of?
So I freelance mostly. Down in Florida right now.
Okay, cool. Is that where you did your training too?
No, I actually did my training in Austin, Texas. And then I spent the summer up in Alaska and got my seaplane rating up there, my tailwheel, and flew up there for a bit. And now I'm here.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's the cool thing.
Awesome.
If you can go anywhere or do anything with it, like you could just pick up and decide to move to a different state if you want.
Yeah,
so
that's amazing.
Yeah, where are you doing your training?
I did all of my training up until this license in San Diego.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I just recently moved to Central New York, so that's where I'm doing my training for CFI initial.
Drastically different weather.
Yeah, this is my first real winter. It was definitely a learning. There was a learning curve for sure.
Yeah, but I bet the performance was great.
Yeah, the planes were soaring. Yeah.
Yeah. So for seaplanes, everybody always wants to get that seaplane license right after you get your PPL. But if you do that, you're only getting your seaplane PPL license. You want to wait until after your commercial and have it as an add-on and get your seaplane license after your commercial.
Oh, I learned through +1 out of Carlsbad.
Very nice.
Yeah. Where in San Diego are you? It's so weird talking to a chat. I feel like I'm talking to like an AI robot.
Central.
What airport? Okay.
What made everybody join this group, just out of curiosity?
Okay, sorry, Casey, I'm in Mission Valley.
Oh, cool.
And
okay.
I just graduated and got endorsed to take the FAA at Golden State.
Nice.
And then I'm actually getting ready to join Plus. I was taking lessons, and then we just found out the instructor from the club that we joined actually was she's not allowed to be teaching, or she's not allowed to be having a school because the franchise tax board shut her down. So I'm trying to pick a new one, and I think I'm just going to go through Plus.
+1 is fantastic. There's always a plane available. The instructors are great. I can't recommend it enough.
Well, thank you. That makes me feel better because I had a really bad experience.
Yeah,
so
you will not have the same experience.
She's supposed to give us our money back because the club was not it was not, what do you call it? It's supposed to be disbanded, and she was taking everybody's money and running with it. We were flying her plane, but her plane's not even insured, we found out. So
oh my gosh. Yeah, that's not going to be the case with +1.
Oh, that's good to know. Thank you so much. And I enjoyed your talk. I've just been at work and I finally joined in, and I love that you played the rocket game. I'm glad that that's a good way to learn it because it really helped me learn my airspaces.
Yeah, we used to love the rocket game. We go to a coffee shop, there'd be like 4 or 5 of us, and we just lay out one of those maps and just go. So yeah, awesome. It's a lot of fun. And I always recommend to always learn with somebody that's beneath you and like not beneath you, but behind you in training. So there's newer than you, and learn with somebody, study with somebody that's ahead of you, because you'll learn stuff, but also when you're studying with somebody that doesn't know as much as you, you're then teaching them, which is then reinforcing that information into your mind.
Thank you so much.
That's such a good tip.
Yeah, because you'll lose it so quick. If you do not talk about it and you're not doing it constantly, it goes so quick.
Yeah. I've been talking to myself a lot these days.
Oh yeah, you're never gonna stop talking to yourself now.
That's funny.
All right. Anybody have any more questions or anything?
Like a million, but I won't hold you up. Maybe I'll send you an email.
Yeah, I can give you my number if you'd like to write that down, and I'd
Yeah,
be
that'd
happy
be
to
great.
answer any questions, and that goes for anybody. So my number is 301 648 7863.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and just let me know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to help you through this whole process. I know CFIing and any part in flight training is just so like daunting. And then once you do it, you're like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that a lot.
all right. Well, I hope you guys all have a great night.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.